as we enter a new era for the Macintosh with the switch to the ARM architecture from Intel. I thought it would be nice to take a look at one of the early MacBook Pro models from a generation that introduced the Intel architecture to the Mac laptop line. That model in question is an early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro. In this video, I'll be doing an overview on the laptop, demonstrating the software, along with installing and trying out OS X Mavericks on here, just for fun. So let's get started, shall we? The particular model I'm looking at here is one of the last first generation 15-inch MacBook Pros, featuring the non-unibody aluminium design carried over from the preceding PowerBook G4s. This generation was first introduced with the early 2006 model, announced in January of that year at the Macworld San Francisco event. That, alongside the iMac, was one of the first Intel Macs introduced during Apple's transition from the PowerPC architecture. Various models followed on from that first MacBook Pro model, with the early 2008 being mostly a speed bump from the previous mid-2007 models. Speaking of speed bumps, let's touch on the specs of the early 2008. The example I have seems to be a base configuration with a 2.4 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo T8300, 2 GB of DDR2 RAM, and a 200GB mechanical hard drive. The CPU could be configured up to a 2.6 GHz Core 2 Duo T9500, and the RAM is expandable up to 6 GB. These 15-inch MacBook Pros have a 1440 by 900 matte display, with an optional glossy panel also available. An NVIDIA GeForce 8600M GT is incorporated for the graphics side, with 256 MB of VRAM on the base model and 512 MB on the higher end configurations. Taking a tour around the machine, on the left we have a MagSafe power connector, a USB 2.0 port, separate line-in and headphone jacks, along with an Express Card 34 slot. As you may have guessed, this is the type of expansion card that follows on from the earlier PCMCIA standard, allowing you to connect additional peripherals to your laptop, like more FireWire and USB ports, to give you an example. Around front, we have an infrared sensor for an Apple remote, originally intended for use with the front row media center software, included in older macOS X versions, a button to open the latches that hold the display in place, and a slot loading superdrive, which unfortunately is faulty on mine. Then on the right side, we have a Kensington lock slot, another USB 2.0 port for a total of 2, FireWire 400 and 800, Gigabit Ethernet, and a full-size DVI port. The original MacBook Pro was one of the first Apple laptops to include a built-in webcam, meaning you'd no longer need an external webcam to bring along when doing video conferencing on the go. On the early 2008 model, the webcam seems to be capable of up to 1280 by 1024 resolution, and you'll see how surprised I was to find that out later on in the video. Upgrading the RAM on here is very easy by simply removing the battery from the bottom, which no longer holds a charge in my case. Then unscrew the 3 screws shown here, and you're in business. For now, I'm going to leave it at the stock 2GB configuration, but I may upgrade that later down the line. I was originally given this laptop back in 2015 from a co-worker of my mum, though I initially was unable to turn it on for a few months due to the fact I didn't have an 85-watt MagSafe power adapter, only a 60-watt one, which seems to be required to power the laptop. Fortunately, I did end up getting an 85-watt power adapter in February 2016, meaning I could finally try it out for the first time. A little while later, the original owner did ask to give the laptop back for something, which we ended up doing. Fast forward to early 2020, my mum offered me this laptop again, after being found completely unused whilst clearing out the studio both of them worked in. But yeah, that's the hardware overview of this MacBook Pro. Let's go ahead and take a look at the original macOS installation that I got this computer with. So we got the early 2008 MacBook Pro all set up and ready. So we're going to go ahead and power it on. And that's the sound of the optical drive initiating, I guess. And there's the bong. Let me just adjust the camera to make sure everything's in frame. There you go, booting up into macOS 10, and you'll see what version of macOS 10 it's running in just a minute, or just a second. And there you go. That's kind of flickery, so I'm gonna adjust the brightness. Only really see that on the camera, because I guess the shutter speed and the refresh rate or whatever doesn't really match up. So let's go to About This Mac, and you'll see that this is running what seems to be the original install of macOS 10.5.8 Leopard right there, which is pretty interesting. As you can see, processors 2.4 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo, 2 gigs of RAM, and yeah, so 10.5 Leopard on an Intel machine. Something you don't really see that often nowadays. But yeah, you can see the dock, some of the stuff that's on it. I guess we'll go through the apps, or some of the apps, not through all of them, because this would end up being a very long video if I did that. So let's go into the Finder, and I'm not going to show too much, because this install still has the original owner's files and data on it, so for privacy reasons I'm not going to show that. But anyways, here's the applications folder. I'll zoom in so you can see a bit better. So right off the bat you can see that there is a copy of Photoshop CS2 on here, which, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there was an Intel version of CS2. So you can kind of see copyright 2005, and so it's running on this MacBook Pro through Rosetta. I guess it's like a sort of compatibility layer that allows PowerPC applications to run on Intel Macs, and this was only included from, if I remember correctly, 10.4 Tiger to 10.6 Snow Leopard, and it ended up being removed completely in Lion. So yeah, you couldn't really run PowerPC apps on there. And as you may have seen recently, Rosetta is kind of making a comeback, in a way, because Apple is going to be transitioning from Intel to essentially the ARM architecture for their Mac line. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how the transition rolls out compared to how it was with PowerPC. So yeah, I can sort of see I've opened a blank Photoshop document. Do a bit of drawing. Ooh, just dragged the window by accident. There you go, hello. Let's change the colour. Do a green underline, I guess. There you go. We'll just put it on the background layer. We're not being too perfect with this. We can add some text as well. Let's make it 72 point, and we'll have it in a slightly brighter colour. This is a test of Photoshop. If you've used Photoshop before, you pretty much know what's going on here, for the most part, if you know what I mean. So we can go ahead and add a drop shadow, a stroke, right there, and there you go. And there's our masterpiece, or whatever. We can do a gradient layer, gradient fill. Ooh, look at that, that's nice. Actually, we'll change the colour to maybe something a bit different. Ooh, okay. Let's change this colour. Go for a yellow. There you go. Yellow, and we'll push this back behind the text. And that drawing, because I put it on the background layer, that's just gonna have to be behind because I didn't put it on a separate layer. But anyway, you get the idea. That's Photoshop CS2 running on this MacBook Pro. I'll just quickly show you the version number, show you the about information. And there it is, version 9.0, some of the copyright information or whatever there, and there you go. That's pretty much that. If I get the information for this application, you can see there, application PowerPC. So yeah, it's a PowerPC only app, and it doesn't really work natively on Intel Macs. Anyway, continuing on, we've got Audacity there. Oops, just not the camera. But yeah, Audacity, see there, it's version 2.1.1. Go to the about, zoom in a bit. So yeah, 2.1.1 from 2015, which I believe is the latest version that runs on macOS 10.5 Leopard on Intel Macs. So let's just do a quick test recording. Testing out the built-in microphone on the early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro using Audacity. There we go. Test 1 2 3. Alright, there it is. We'll just play it back. Testing out the built-in microphone on the early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro. Yeah, test 1 2 3. Okay, cool. Maybe we'll just save that and go ahead and export as a WAV file. we'll just say early 2008 MacBook Pro mic test. There you go. Yeah, you get the idea. That's Audacity. Great little app for recording audio. And of course, we've got some of the standard built-in apps that come with macOS. We've also got Firefox on here. Quite an old version. This is 16.0.2. I'm not sure if this is the latest version that you can run on an Intel Mac running OS X Leopard, but yeah, this is what we got on here. So as you can see, it's the start page. It's got the old Google logo there. A little throwback to that. Let's search something here. Very randomly search macOS Big Sur, which recently was announced at the WWDC 2020 that just happened last month as of recording this video. You can kind of see there that some of the things don't really line up properly. The search field is kind of at the top for whatever reason. And these buttons, the settings and tools, are right at the far left of the screen. But yeah, being quite an old browser, some websites don't look right, and some websites won't even load because of the SSL security layer, the HTTPS security layer, if that makes sense. Let's see if the Apple page even loads on here. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's not looking great. Doesn't look right. Gosh, look at that. Everything's broken. Yeah, you can see that new interface. Yeah, it's quite nice. Not sure about the icons, but yeah, other than that, it's quite a nice new interface. But yeah, that's Firefox. Won't show too much of that. One app that used to be bundled in macOS is Front Row, which is kind of like, I don't really know, it's kind of like, I guess, maybe Apple's version of Windows Media Center, if you know what that is. Maybe not. Yeah, you can kind of see. Kind of a place where you can access movies, music, photos, and your TV shows on iTunes, I guess. This was also removed from macOS in 10.7 LYNE, if I remember correctly. There's a version of iTunes on there. This is it's 10.6.3. We've also got a copy of Office 2008 right here with Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Entourage, which was, I think it was the Mac exclusive email client. Might have been kind of different from Outlook, but don't quote me on that because I don't really know too much about it. But yeah, we'll just open up Word 2008 briefly. As you can see, the interface is quite different from the corresponding Word 2007 on Windows, which was the first version to introduce that new ribbon interface. Was it ribbon interface, I believe? Let me just search that up real quick. Oh yeah, as you can see here, this is what I was talking about earlier with some websites not working because of the SSL security layer. So yeah, as you can see, Wikipedia doesn't load. You can't really use it on this version. Let's just do it from my phone, I guess. Let's see, Microsoft Office. Oh, spelling it wrong. Microsoft Office. Gosh, okay, there we go. Microsoft Office 2007. Yeah, here we go. Ribbon interface, I think. Office 2007 introduced a new graphical interface called the Fluent User Interface, which it uses ribbons and an office menu instead of menus and toolbars. Okay, yeah, there we go. That took a bit long, but yeah. Yeah, so Office 2007 was the first version of Office that used the ribbon interface that's still being used today, whereas the corresponding Office 2008 for Mac uses a more standard, much different interface, I guess. You kind of have these like tabs here, but yeah, it's a lot different from the ribbon interface in Office 2007, and that did come over to later versions of Office for Mac, the ribbon interface. But anyway, enough talking about that. Let's try out Office here. Test out the keyboard. It's quite a nice keyboard, to be honest. Definitely much more nicer than the 2016 MacBook Pro and all of the MacBook Pro models that use the butterfly keyboard, I think it was. That keyboard is just not great. Very unreliable. It's just doesn't really have that much travel in the keys. Just feels very weird. But yeah, there's the version number, the about page for Word 2008, 12.0, copyright 2007, blah blah blah. And there you go. That's Word. I guess we'll briefly show PowerPoint. Not going to spend too long on that. So yeah, PowerPoint, you can make presentations. You know the drill. Got these themes. Let's try this one. Hello, this is a presentation by Alex. Writing this on the MacBook Pro early 2008. Be sure to subscribe. And we can also add word out. I'll try this one. Here's some word out. Yeah, no, very boring. But gonna add effects to it, I think. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Professional. Alright, now we'll view the presentation full screen. Yay, blah 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 stuff and things. And there you go, you get the idea. That is PowerPoint 2008 and Office 2008. Not going to show the rest of the apps on here. The rest of the apps in the Office 2008 suite. We'll just save this for whatever reason. Okay. Alright, there we go. And we got a photo booth. right here, where you can take photos with the iSight camera. Hello, here's me. And this version of macOS, I think it's the first one to introduce these sort of chroma key style effects, if you know what I mean. Wait, let's just try one very quickly. Try the fish one. So you step out the frame, and then I kind of moved the chair so it doesn't really work very well, but yeah, kind of in a sea of fish, which is is quite nice, I guess. And of course you got all the standard effects as well: thermal camera, comic book, and pop art. Let's take a photo. And there you go. Very nice. Very nice. That's photo booth. And some other stuff here. There's an old version of Spotify. Version 0.8.1 there, which I'm not really going to open. I'm not sure if it would actually work still. And also QuickTime 7, I think this is. Yeah. So this is QuickTime 7.6.9. Right there. Yeah, it's not the Pro version, so you don't get those Pro features like being able to record videos from, you know, a camera, or do any audio recordings or whatever. So yeah, that's that. And there's also views, whatever that is. Actually, let's open it. Kind of curious to see what it is. Oh, interesting. What is this? Oh, is this like a... Oh, okay. Some sort of torrent client? Or something? Seems to me like that's what this is. Oh yeah. It's a torrent client. But yeah, I think there's not much else I can really show with this original 10.5 Leopard install. So yeah. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is install 10.9 Mavericks on here and try that out, which will be pretty interesting. Now I do have some installation media for Mavericks. Here's one I prepared earlier. But yeah, I basically just used the create installation media thing or whatever terminal command to put a 10.9 Mavericks install on here. I had to kind of remember to do that because it had been quite a while since I had done that. Did have to go for the trouble of trying to find a copy of 10.9 Mavericks because you can't really find it on Apple's website, so I had to download it from a Mac that was running an older version of macOS, and I used that terminal command to put the installer on here. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and plug this in to the USB port. And there we go. So you can see the app there. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and restart this computer, prepare the hard drive, and we'll get on with installing Mavericks on here. So yeah, we'll see you in a minute. We'll be getting to the install of Mavericks in just a minute, but I thought it would be interesting to see the boot up process from the install USB in Verbose mode, which shows every process that occurs during startup. So here we go. Alright, so it's been a couple of hours. I have prepared the hard drive on this MacBook Pro. I've basically formatted it. I've already backed up the original install that was on here, because we do actually know the original owner personally. So just in case they need some of the data that's on here, I do have that backed up, so that should be good there. But anyways, we're now here in the OS X Mavericks install USB that I made with this utilities window, which is what you would also get if you would boot your Mac into recovery mode. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and install OS X Mavericks. Okay, look at that. You got that background there within the X. So go continue. It's a license agreement, blah blah blah. I agree. Okay, so select the disk where you want to install OS X. We want to install it to this one. So that is what we're going to do. Alright, here we go. Now installing OS X Mavericks on this early 2008 MacBook Pro. I'm going to bring up the installer log so we can get a good idea of what's happening. There you go. Some of you may be wondering, why are you installing Mavericks specifically on this MacBook? Well, I thought about installing it on here because OS X Mavericks is quite special to me in a way, because when I got my first MacBook, which was a mid-2009 white plastic MacBook, that came with OS 10.6 no Leopard, and that was basically the first version of macOS that I used on a regular basis, pretty much. And because I couldn't afford to get Lion and Mountain Lion, I just basically skipped those operating systems. And OS X Mavericks came out, and it was the first version that was completely free to download. So
today we announce a new era for the Mac, because today we're announcing that Mavericks is free.
Of course, I went ahead and downloaded it on my 2009 MacBook and used it there. So I guess you could say that was the second version of macOS that I used on a regular basis. And yeah, when Yosemite came out the following year in 2014, I upgraded that MacBook to that. Sounds a bit weird, but yeah. I upgraded it to Yosemite when that came out. And by 2015, I pretty much upgraded laptops to the 2012 MacBook Pro. And that came with Yosemite.
My new MacBook Pro.
I've pretty much used all of the macOS versions since Mavericks, pretty much. Okay, well, at the time of recording this video, I actually still haven't upgraded to macOS Big Sur yet, but I probably might do that after I finish editing this video and uploading it. So, yeah, we'll see. Did that make any sense? Hope it did. But yeah, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to install Mavericks on this MacBook Pro, because, you know, kind of nostalgia reasons. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and let this install and come back and try it out, because it's been quite a while since I've used Mavericks, so it should be pretty interesting. So we'll see you in a minute. And it's been a couple of hours once again, and OS X Mavericks is now installed on this MacBook, so just have to go ahead and set it up. Choose our keyboard layout. We don't want to register. And there we go, setting up your Mac. I guess we should see the desktop in a couple seconds. Not sure if you can hear the hard drive. You might be able to hear that. I'm not sure. But yeah, it is working. Oh, there we go. There's the default Mavericks waves wallpaper, I think. Right there, on the dock coming in. And there we are. I think we're pretty much booted up now. Yeah, there we go. Still got this. Got the install USB. So I'm going to eject that now. There you go. So there we are. Mavericks. First thing I'm going to do is turn on the zooming accessibility feature so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, that's what we want. Alright, so okay, so it's OS 10.9.5, so I believe this is the most up-to-date version of Mavericks. The last version released for Mavericks. There might be some updates to install. We'll check those later on. There we go. Gosh, it's very weird seeing this style of interface again, with the slightly skeuomorphic design instead of the flat that was introduced in Yosemite for macOS. Although there was a bit more skeuomorphism elements that were in Lion and Mountain Lion. There was like a sort of leather background in this mission control UI, but that was taken out in Yosemite, not Yosemite, in Mavericks, and also in Notes. It looks a lot more flat. This is the test. Note. See there? It's quite an interesting design. But yeah, this was the last version of macOS to include this sort of older skeuomorphic kinda design. And as I mentioned, that was completely changed with Yosemite, adding the sort of flat UI design that was sort of inspired by iOS 7. But yeah, let's see here. So we got all the standard stuff in here. Let's see what version of iTunes this is. What we got on here? License agreements, blah blah blah. Taking its time. There we go. Oh, it says there's a new version, of course. This is iTunes 11.3.1. See what Photobooth looks like. I believe it looks, at least the windowed mode. I'll see it's going to full screen. The windowed Photobooth, windowed mode of Photobooth looks kind of similar to what it looked like in Leopard and Snow Leopard. But on here you've got this very different full screen interface with the curtains there, which is very interesting. But yeah, and you got these effects. These are face tracking effects. This bird one, Dizzy, Chipmunk. And you got the standard effects there. Let's take a photo. And there you go. Just a standard photo with no effects. Let's go out of this full screen mode. And there you go, Photobooth. We've got QuickTime Player, QuickTime Player 10, which wasn't a thing in Leopard. That was introduced in Snow Leopard, QuickTime Player 10. So, which is a much different, very different version from QuickTime Player 7. And on here you could do stuff like do a movie recording right there. What resolution is this? 1280 by 720. That's interesting. I didn't know it could do that, this camera. That is very interesting. Unless it's upscaled or something. Oh. Oh, this must be the native resolution, 1280 by 1024. Maybe. Yeah, that's very interesting. See, at the maximum quality, it records in Apple ProRes 4444. As you'd probably guess, that would create very large files. But at the high quality, It records at H.264. Gosh, I didn't know this camera could even do HD. Well, 720p. Oh, bit lag. Oops. Gosh, it is really lagging. Maybe this computer actually can't handle recording at this resolution. But yeah, this is a test recording using the built-in iSet camera on the early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro. Just recording using QuickTime Player. So we'll see how this turns out. Gosh, I don't even know if that turned out any good. Oh gosh, 4 frames a second. It's really lagging. Maybe this computer actually can't handle recording at this resolution. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it can't handle recording at H.264, 1280, 720, like that. But we'll save this anyway, so I can maybe like show it in the video, like import it directly into my editing software. Okay, there we go. Gosh, yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, unless it's somehow upscaling the resolution for whatever reason. I don't know, not sure. But yeah. We've got system preferences. Let's see what backgrounds we've got. So of course we've got the wave, the default. Abstract. Antelope Canyon, Bahamas Aerial. That's a nice one. Beach, Earth and Moon. And there's also this one, which is originally included in 10.7 Lion. It's an image of a lion. Yeah. And also the default wallpaper from Mountain Lion, the Galaxy. So yeah, some interesting wallpapers for sure. We'll go with this one, Abstract. There's the screensavers there. Of course, you can change the appearance of the buttons and menus and windows. We'll leave it on the blue. Maybe we'll change the highlight color to green. Green's my favorite color, by the way. But yeah, what we'll go ahead and do is check to see. It's going to open the App Store. Check to see if I can download any updates on here. Then we'll go ahead and try out web browsing on here. I'm very interested to see what web browsers still support Mavericks. So yeah, we'll go ahead and check if there's any updates. Oh, okay, here we go. Got some updates. iBooks, iTunes, of course. Remote desktop client, Safari, and a security update from 2016, which I guess is when it when support for this ended. Well, soon after that, maybe. Do you want to turn on automatic updates? Not now. I guess it will download and restart. So yeah, we'll get these updates installed, try out some web browsers, maybe a few other apps. Haven't really planned this, if you couldn't tell. We'll be back in a minute. This is a quick test of the built-in webcam, built-in iSight camera maybe, on the 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2008. There's my phone. As you can see, you can sort of see the laptop. And this is my 2012 MacBook Pro. Right here. There you go. Thanks for watching. Did press stop there. Anyway, bye. Okay, so those updates have been done, and just wanted to point out here, because I didn't really get to see it first time around, the login screen is quite different from the newer versions of macOS, with this sort of grey background, and also the Apple logo at the top there. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and log in. You can see the App Store there, with Catalina there. Alright, so that's Final Cut Pro 10 in the App Store. Alright, anyway, get the idea. So you can see, since it's updated iTunes, you've got a different icon there. One thing I've actually not looked at, now that I think about it, is a launchpad. Right here. So this was a thing first introduced in LYNE as another way to access all of your apps that you have on your Mac. Thank goodness. And look at the folder design. It is very different to what it is now. It's more like iOS 6 and previous versions of iOS. But anyway, let's try out some web browsing. See how usable this version of macOS is on the web. This is the top sites thing in Safari. And the version of Safari is 9.1.3. Copyright 2016. So before, when we tried to load Wikipedia on that old version of Firefox in 10.5 Leopard, we couldn't go onto Wikipedia because that version of Firefox didn't support SSL, the SSL security layer or whatever it's called. So let's try and see if we can load it here. I mean, it loaded the thumbnail, so it looks like it might actually load. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Very cool. Very, very cool. Let's randomly search an article. Just do MacBook Pro. It's taken a while. Not sure. Maybe we'll come back to that later. And the thing we'll do now is maybe we'll go ahead and search for that through Google instead. And see if we get anywhere. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just turn off the top sites thing. I'm just going to do an empty page. Yeah, the internet might not be working. Let me just check on a different device. Okay, yeah, it is working. Not sure why it's not working here. So let's try and search for... We were trying to search before MacBook Pro. I spelt it wrong. Dang it. But yeah, there we go. And already you can see it's rendering the page a lot better than on that old version of Firefox. As you can see, if I zoom here, the text field is centered in place. If I go to the Wikipedia article for the MacBook Pro, for whatever reason, there it is. Yeah, Wikipedia is working out pretty well. We'll load up Apple's website. So yeah, already it seems to be rendering a lot better. Don't know what's going on here. Okay, maybe not everything, but yeah, this is a bit of an older version of Safari. So what we'll do now, actually, let's go ahead and try out some other web browsers. Thank you for downloading Chrome, blah blah blah. And we'll also download Firefox. Not quite sure if the newest version of Firefox still supports Mavericks, but we will see. Okay. Oh yeah, look. Still supports 10.9. This is Firefox 78, version 78. So that's pretty good. So yeah, anyway. Get Chrome installed. So we'll drag Chrome to the applications, and there it is, copying. And we'll get Firefox, and we'll copy this over. It's cool that the latest version still supports Mavericks. I think Google already cut support for Chrome on Mavericks. But yeah, we'll close Safari, and we'll try Chrome first, and see what that's like. Show you want to open, yes. Okay, yeah, so you can see it's got the older style tab interface, so yeah, you can tell it's an older version. You can search from here with Google, yeah, we know. Let's see what version. It is running version 65. Right there. Let's load a web page. Animal Crossing Wiki for some reason. Oh gosh. We've detected you're using an older version of Chrome. Yeah, I can't really reinstall because newest version of Chrome does not support Mavericks. But anyway, this is the Animal Crossing Wiki. Of course we got an ad. Yeah, like a lot of people, I've also been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Switch, and it's pretty good, to be honest. There's definitely some problems with the game, but for the most part, it is a pretty good game, and it's kind of the first Animal Crossing game I've really spent more time on. I played a very little bit of Wild World. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've played a little bit of Wild World on the DS, and also Pocket Camp. yeah. These are all the villagers. Let's go to Bob's page. And there's Bob. It's a bit lag scrolling. That may just be because there's a lot of things still loading in the background. Animal Crossing e-card. But yeah, you get the idea. That's the Animal Crossing wiki. Another page we'll look at quickly. Very random. Toasty Tech. Is it .org? No, it's .com. I always forget that. Yes, toastytech.com, Nathan's Toasty Technology page. It's a site I've known for a very long time. And as you can see, this is Nathan's GUI gallery with a wide range of operating systems from different platforms like Windows 8. As you can see, they've written their thoughts on it. Windows 8 running in 800 by 600. It's quite funny there. Miscellaneous screenshots. There's a lot of interesting stuff on this website, and definitely recommend having a look at it if you haven't already. And because of the simplicity of this layout, this website does run pretty well on older computers, which is quite nice. And yeah, so let's now go ahead and try out Firefox, which, as I said, is the newest version, which still runs on Mavericks. Look at that. Welcome to Firefox. Start browsing. We'll try Reddit. Go to r/vintage Apple. This is in the new layout, not the older layout. Mac LC520. This person recapped. It's pretty cool. Having a ton of games played in elementary school. And got to share that experience with their roommate. That's pretty nice. But yeah, that's working pretty well, for the most part. Oh look, sealed copy of Final Cut Pro with a not for resale sticker. Hopefully you can see the original poster's username there. Let's get a close up of this photo. Yeah, there you go. Promotional copy. Not for resale. That's a very nice find. But yeah, that's Reddit, and a little bit of web browsing using Mavericks and this early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro. Alright, so looking a bit more in depth into video playback on this MacBook Pro, I found that on both Firefox and Chrome, YouTube videos play just fine at 720p and lower resolutions, with very few dropped frames, as you can see with this video by Elise, who you should definitely check out, by the way. However, bumping that up to 1080p introduces more inconsistent performance, with added drop frames on playback in most cases. The same can be said for higher frame rate videos like 60 frames a second, with dropped frames and sometimes even freezing when playing these back in Firefox. Chrome seems to do slightly better at this in my testing, though you still get a lot of dropped frames. Local video playback, on the other hand, is quite a different story. Depending on the codec and bitrate, video playback at up to 1080p 30 frames a second works just fine using VLC Media Player, with anything higher than that heading into drop frame central again. One last note to mention, playing videos at a higher quality on this computer can use up a lot more CPU usage, so you may hear the fans start to kick in during playback. Overall, this MacBook Pro performs fairly well for video playback, considering its age. I just thought of one more thing I could do on here, is possibly try out a few games to end things off. So yeah, I'll go ahead and prepare those. So we'll be back in a minute. So I've got a couple of games here I could try out on the MacBook. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect to it and transfer them over through file sharing. So I'll just do that. Okay, so as you can see here, in this folder, I've gotten a couple of games I can try out on this, and I'm just going to unzip all of these files and we'll see how these games run, if they even do run on Mavericks. I didn't really check that. We'll see. As you may have seen there, we got a Lullaby of Colors. The floor is Jelly, which is just named Jelly there. Jump Grid. This one's in a folder. Now this one might not run because it has that no symbol. The LYNE, line, and windowsill right there. So just put that in applications. I'm going to test this one because I'm not sure if it will actually work. Yeah, thought so. Can't use this version of the application Jump Grid with this version of OS X. You have OS 10.9.5. The application requires macOS 10.14 or later. So that's Mojave. So yeah, we can't really run this, unfortunately. And yeah, so let's try these out. Look, they're all there. Cool. Which one should we try first? We'll try Lullaby of Colors to see if that even runs. See how well it runs on here. Oh, I think it just crashed. We'll try one more time. And if it doesn't work, we'll just go on to a different game. Yeah. Oh well. That's fine. Let's go ahead and try The Floor is Jelly. think that's a less demanding game. So I'm guessing it'll run pretty well on here, but who knows. Oh, come to full screen. Should we leave it on full screen? We'll leave it on full screen, why not? Okay. If I can remember how to play this. How do you play this again? Okay. Resume. Okay, this game may not work on this MacBook, so we will go ahead and try out the next game, which we'll do windowsill. By the way, I've gotten these games from itch.io. These came from the Racial Justice and Equality bundle. It was a very good bundle, supporting a very important cause, and you're getting a lot of interesting and great games in the bundle. So yeah, I'm glad I got it. Let's see here. There we go. So you've got this cube and you've got to guide it through the little slot there, and you can move this train out of the room. If that makes any sense. There's the title of the game. I'm trying to remember how to do this puzzle. Let's see. Oh yeah. So the cube is actually on top of the I. The letter I there. Now we can guide the train out. Ding. Yeah. So I guess you get the bird to eat that. Oh, there you go. And you get a cube. That is nice. But yeah, this game's running. So it's quite a simple game. It's running pretty well on here. Alright, yeah, you get the idea. I'm not going to go on with this game for too long. But yeah, the final game that we'll try out for today. LYNE. L-Y-N-E. Now it's going into full screen. Might not actually run on this. On Mavericks or this computer. Something. I'll probably say it's Mavericks. Both a Lullaby of Colors and LYNE use, I'm guessing they were made with the Unity engine, and for some reason we're getting the same problem as both of them. Don't really run on this, on Mavericks. I'm guessing it's an operating system problem. Alright, the final thing we're going to do in this video is we're going to have a look at some of the screensavers in X-Screensaver, which is a compilation of some very cool screensavers, and this will still work on 10.9, Mavericks, so I'm going to try it out and see how they look on this 2008 MacBook Pro. I won't go through all of them, but just show a few, see what they look like. So I want to install everything. Welcome to X Screensaver Installer. This will install all of the screensavers system-wide. Full installation will take around 160 megabytes. Why is this? I was about to say why it's taken so long, but it just finished as I was about to say that. So yeah, that's good. It's good. Seems to automatically load system preferences. There we go. There. Let me just zoom in so you can see a bit better. And there are all of the screensavers that come in this compilation. There's a lot of screensavers here. One of them is a sort of remake of the classic Maze screensaver that came with Windows 95, 98, 2000, I think, and NT4. Kind of navigating through a maze. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's see what else there is. Apple II. If I can actually click it. There we go. Oh, and it crashed. Yeah, you've also got this Apple II screensaver, which you can see there. And it actually loads, well, try to load a Wikipedia page. You can change the settings. Yeah, it's a simulation of the Apple II, kind of reproducing the sort of appearance of that computer. An Apple II computer simulation in all its 1979 glory. It also reproduces the appearance of display on a colour television set of the period. So you can get it to show the computer name and time, some custom text, a URL, which is what it was automatically set to show a Wikipedia RSS feed, and also a shell command. I guess if you had like a custom script or something, you could show that there. I'll show the computer name and time, see what that looks like. We'll just zoom out. Kind of got this nice, saw that nice turn on, sort of CRT warming up. You can kind of see it took a screenshot of the desktop, sort of representing it as if it was being shown on an Apple II. That's pretty cool. Let me change that to some custom text to see what that looks like. So display scrolling text. Hello, this is a test. Preview. Oh, there you go. I guess it just repeats that line over and over. That is pretty nice. Another nice one here is GL School, which, as you may have guessed from the title, is a school of fish. Okay, cool. One more screensaver, lava light. It's a little screensaver of a lava lamp. Just sort of sitting there, pretty self-explanatory, kinda. Well, there you go. Showing a bunch of the screensavers in the X screensaver compilation. And there you have it. That has been a little overview of this early 2008 15-inch MacBook Pro, and also going through some of the apps and the operating system, and basically just sort of tinkering around with it and trying out some stuff. So yeah, it's been quite fun doing this video. It's kind of the first time I'm combining this sort of more casual style with sort of scripted sections. So, but yeah, I'm definitely welcome to some constructive criticism of how I did with this video, because yeah, it's not going to be perfect. I'm still kind of figuring out how I want to go about these videos, these style of videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it for a little demo of this MacBook Pro, and also installing OS X Mavericks on here. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, as I said in that previous clip, it definitely has been a lot of fun taking a look back at this MacBook Pro alongside OS X Mavericks, especially with the release of the M1 Max and macOS Big Sur, introducing a new era for the Macintosh and honestly the PC industry in general, as mentioned in the intro of this video. For now, I do want to say that this MacBook Pro is definitely still usable for the most part. Basic computing tasks like web browsing, using Office apps and watching video, at least at 720p and lower, should work out pretty well on here. Some additional things I want to mention at the end here is that although I only really looked at OS X Leopard and Mavericks in this video, the early 2008 MacBook Pros officially support up to 10.11 El Capitan, and if you want, you can use a patcher to run even newer versions like a Mojave and Catalina. There's also a few other topics I wanted to cover here, like video editing and using other operating systems like Windows and Linux. But considering how long this video is already, I decided to leave those out for now. Let me know in the comments if any of you are interested in seeing me cover those topics in a separate video or something like that. And finally, here's a little fun fact. The thumbnail for this was actually made on the 2008 MacBook Pro itself using GIMP 2.10. I didn't really encounter any problems making them on the MacBook, at least for the thumbnails I typically do for videos, consisting of just image and text with a drop shadow. So, good stuff all around. Well, thanks for watching this nearly hour-and-a-half long video, which accidentally became the longest video I've made on this channel so far, which, yeah, it's crazy. But if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me in the future. You can also follow me on my social networks in various places around the internet, which you'll see somewhere on the screen, probably. And yeah, once again, thank you for watching this video. Thanks for being patient with me throughout the last year or so. And I'll see you next time. Bye. So we got the early 2008 MacBook Pro set up and ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and power it up. Going to go ahead and power. Oh my god. Let me start that again. Hello, hello, hello. I'm speaking, blah blah blah. I'm just saying stuff. This is going to be like cut out. Well, this clip's going to be muted in the actual video, so, you know, whatever stuff.